Hey, Freehandly Made here. I was live a few minutes ago, um, and I decided to redo this video so that the quality of the video would be better. Because when I go live on my cell phone, it's always not the best quality, and I want my content to be really good and clear. Today, we are going to talk about emotion self-regulation as it pertains to autism. As you know, if you've been following my channel, I am autistic. I was not diagnosed until 43, 44 years old. And so I've been trying to share my experiences living life with ADHD and autism. All right, so some of the topics that I've already talked about with ASD is our thinking differences, our social differences, and our sensory movement differences. So emotional differences is what we're going to cover today. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I had something in my eye. Our autism differences can be vulnerabilities, but they can also be our strengths. And I like to talk about strengths. And I try to focus on strengths, but I think emotional self-regulation is really important, and this actually, unfortunately, is a vulnerability that a lot of us on the spectrum have. And I want to be able to share this with you so that you can be educated and become more aware of your autistic family and friends that you have in your life. And hopefully this will help you to understand where we're coming from and promote acceptance. All right, so in a neurotypical person, their emotional self-regulation process is more like a dial. So they're able to adjust their emotions and be able to regulate their emotions. With autism, we don't have a dial. It's more like an on and off switch. So 1 minute we can be fine, next minute we can be all upset and explode within seconds. And that's the best way to describe it when it comes to my experience with the issues that I have in regulating my emotions. So there are two sides of your brain that deal with emotional self-regulation. You have your neocortex, which is your thinking side of your brain, and then you have your limbic system, which is your emotional side of your brain, and the two are supposed to work together. Your thinking brain is supposed to be able to influence your emotional brain to help you monitor and regulate your emotions. So with an autistic person, that connection is very poor, if working at all. So our thinking brain isn't connecting with our emotional brain to help us be able to regulate what we're going through emotionally and be able to handle it in more times than not a positive way. So what does this all mean, basically? I'm going to go over 5 difficulties that I have with emotional self-regulation. The first one I have is recognizing my emotional state. There's a lot of times when I'm in a certain mood and I have no idea why I'm in that mood. I can be in a bad mood and I cannot explain what has caused me to be in that mood. And it's very frustrating to me because I already have a hard time articulating my feelings anyway. But to be in a position where maybe you're feeling highly agitated or irritated and not be able to know why is very concerning, and it can be embarrassing at times because no one likes to be out of control over what's going on in their head and in their bodies. and then not be able to explain it. It can be an embarrassing situation. And it's definitely very frustrating for me when I can't figure out why I'm in a mood that I'm in. I'm actually had that this morning. I got up this morning. Some people just wake up in a bad mood. Oh, I just woke up in a bad mood. But I didn't wake up in a bad mood. I was fine when I first woke up. But as I was getting my son's breakfast ready and stuff, I felt a very underlying, very agitated emotion in me, and I didn't like it because I have a lot I need to get done today, and I don't have time to be trying to figure out why I'm in the mood that I'm in. Secondly, identifying what my need is that's being signaled by that emotion causes me a lot of problems. So I'm going to give you an example. Anxiety is a huge signal to let you know, hey, there's something going on. What are you needing? What's causing this, and what are you needing to help your anxiety go away? So here's an example of one of the major anxieties that I get. I have major anxiety when I drive. I hate driving. It causes me very great anxiety. And that anxiety is triggering me to figure out what it is I need to feel better about driving and calmer about driving and okay to drive. And it's supposed to help me look for ways to feel safer. But I'm not always able to identify that need. The third thing is attending to the situation in my environment that's causing that emotion. When I'm feeling certain ways, especially if it's a negative emotion, like I'm feeling extreme anxiety, or I'm angry, or I'm very, very agitated or irritated, I'm not always able to scan my environment and find a tool or object to help me calm down. And this is not good because there are times when I can go into an emotional meltdown because I can't find something positive to help regulate and get me back into a more balanced emotion and mood. The fourth thing is using my behavior to regulate my emotion in a positive way. Adaptive behavior. New behaviors that are positive in order to deal with stress and anxiety, or even being over excited, because sometimes that can happen, and you can get into a situation that's not necessarily good when you're overly excited about something and feeling overly happy about something, and you kind of don't know what's going on around you, and you could offend somebody or whatever. Instead, more times than not, I'm using maladaptive behavior, negative behavior. Now, just to give you some examples of that kind of behavior, especially experiencing with autism, and some of these you'll recognize because they're talked about a lot with children, and that is hitting yourself, banging your head. It could be screaming, running away, that kinds of stuff. For me, it's mostly screaming and running away. When I say running away, I mean going into another room and shutting the door and not coming out. I could stay in the room all night, all through the next day until the next day. Like, it can be that severe. And the fifth thing is the cognitive strategies to use with intense experiences to help re-regulate. And basically what this is I'm not able to use my thinking brain effectively to plan and reinforce better behaviors in helping me regulate my emotions. And a lot of times my emotions are an all or nothing situation. So I'm either extremely happy and hyper focused on what's making me happy, and I'm not noticing on anything what's going on around me. And then the next second, I can be either extremely upset, angry, or sad or whatever within seconds, especially if I'm interrupted about something. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is mutual regulation, and that's when you have more than one person involved with emotions, whether it's your emotions or the other person's emotions. This can also be a challenge for those of us that are on the spectrum. For me, and I'm saying everything that I can't speak for everybody else. I can only speak for me. So my struggles are these. Understanding and interpreting the emotions of another person. A lot of people can read body language really well. I can't. The only person I can somewhat read, somewhat okay, is definitely my son, because my son and I are a lot alike, and then my husband. And even with my husband, I misread him a lot, a lot. Another thing that I struggle with is an understanding that why someone's feeling the way they're feeling is part of the interpretation. Sometimes I just can't relate to what the person's going through. Another thing is being able to express my emotions and what my needs are to another person. I have a really hard time with that. A lot of times I don't understand why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, so how am I supposed to express it? And then once I am able to figure out what I'm feeling and why I'm feeling it, I have a hard time expressing that I need help with it or seeking help for it, or even sharing why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. Because a lot of times I've been so used to being told that I'm overreacting on something, I feel like I have a safe place to even try and get the words out. And then part of the problem also is theory of mind, being able to get what's in my head, articulating it out of my mouth in words. I have a lot better time at articulating my feelings on something through writing, texting mostly, or writing in my journal. That doesn't help. Writing a journal doesn't help because writing your journal doesn't give you the help you need. So that's something that therapy helps, especially if you're an adult diagnosed later in life. Therapy will help with that because you can learn tools on how to express the need, when to express the need. And at the moment, since I've moved, I haven't found a new therapist yet, and I'm still looking. So please pray with me over that I can find that person, that therapist, to continue that work in my life. The other thing that I really struggle with is being able to ask for help and then accepting help. That is really huge problem that I have, because once I'm in the middle of trying to solve a problem, or I'm going through that emotional ride, it's like my emotions completely blind me and take my mouth shut. Like I can't get my thinking brain to cooperate and override my emotional brain so I can get the help I need. And then, of course, my husband, being the typical male who wants to fix it, will offer me help a lot of times without me asking. And I don't accept that help because it's hard to explain. I'm just not able to a lot of the times. I'm like in a trance, basically, is how my brother puts it. And I can't see past my nose. So these are the types of things that those of us with the spectrum struggle with. I'm going to give you an example of not being able to ask for help or accept help. That has happened more than once in our family. I have strong sensory sensitivities to things, especially with smell. And one of my fur babies, I have 2 dogs, they're Chiweenies. One of my fur babies had an accident on the floor and pooped on the floor. Most of the time, I'm able to pick it up and get it in the toilet and flush it. But this particular instance, the smell was overwhelming and it triggered me. And I was very irritated and grossed out and I was gagging, and then I was stressed out about it because I couldn't control the emotional roller coaster I was on due to it. And my husband was like, "Well, just pick it up and throw it out." And I couldn't get out that I couldn't do it because I was trying not to gag. And instead I just kept raising my voice and screaming and complaining and, "Oh my gosh, it smells horrible. Why did you do that? Why did you mess on the floor? And how am I supposed to pick this up? And it smells bad." And I couldn't get out of that emotional trap that I was in. It was horrible. And so here's my husband's just trying to help me. Well, just get some toilet paper and just pick it up real quick and throw it. And he's trying to help me. And I can't accept his help because I'm in this whirlwind of emotion. And finally, my husband just got in front of me and took care of it and went in the toilet. And then he looked at me. He's like, "Why didn't you just ask me to help you? I could have just done it for you. Why do we have to go through all this yelling and you overreacting to the smell of poop?" Well, I didn't know how to explain that. How do you explain that? I don't even understand it myself half the time. Now, looking back, now that I'm all calm and rational, yeah, that would have been the smart thing to do. "Hey, hon, this smell this time is just so bad, and it's making me gag, and I can't handle it. Can you please pick this up for me?" Would have been the more appropriate behavior and steps to take to solve the problem. But our thinking brains do not connect with our emotional brains like a neurotypical person. It's like that connection, that wire is like severed. Or maybe not severed, maybe it's just slightly cut. It's like misfiring, like it's not connecting correctly. Understanding this is the first step of learning tools to help through that situation. And if you have a child that's autistic, more likely than not, they're gonna have some of these issues. And if you don't know how and don't know what types of tools to teach them to help them through all this process, seek out someone who can help them, because your autistic child is going to grow up to be an autistic adult. And there's a lot of times I wish I had learned some of these strategies and tools to help me before I got into my 40s. A lot of the way I deal with things are not the correct way to deal with things because it's fight or flight a lot of times with me. And it's stressful. So I'm on a journey now where I'm trying to relearn how to, instead of react to something, respond to it and try and get that connection in my thinking brain to work properly, so I can regulate my emotions enough to where I can rationalize and solve my issues and my problems that I have going on. So emotional self-regulation is huge. That's why it's hard for a child who's autistic, and even with ADHD, we have these issues. They get into that emotional state and they can't calm themselves down and they don't make good decisions. My son has had huge issues with this in school, and he's lost his temper and he's kicked desks and he's thrown things. He's thrown himself on the floor and kicked and screamed. He's had these issues, and I distinctly remember as a child having these issues and having the same reactions when I was younger. And back then it was called a tantrum. It wasn't called a meltdown. But that's what they were. They were meltdowns, not tantrums. Literally got to the point where you could not control anything that was going on with you emotionally. Everything in your mind turns black. You don't even realize what you're doing half the time. And even after it's over with and someone tells you, you did this and this, and you're like, "I did what?" Your brain just shuts off. And you're on this violent roller coaster ride until it comes to a complete stop. This is a very serious situation and it needs to be taken seriously. And I'm a strong self-advocate for autism, not just children but adults. And there's not a lot of help for adults, especially when you're diagnosed at a late age or later on in age, like in your 20s and on into 40s, even 60s. The focus is so much on children that adults get left behind. So preventive medicine is important. So the sooner you can have your child diagnosed, um, the better chances you have in understanding your child and giving them the tools they need to be able to be successful, but yet still be themselves. You don't want to teach your child how to mask because that leads to major depression and it leads to major identity crisis. So you don't want that. But they do need to learn how to live in this world and learn how they think and learn how they process so they can have problem solving skills and be able to regulate, learn how what they can do to help themselves regulate their emotions so they're responding instead of reacting to something. So is it for this segment. I hope this helps you. I hope that you're able to use this to better understand your loved one who is on the spectrum. And please feel free to share this video. And if this did help you, please give it a thumbs up and push the like button. And don't forget to subscribe so that you can get notifications of new videos and ring that bell so you're notified as soon as new videos go up. Always, if you have questions that you would like to ask, please feel free to email me at freehandedbygod73@gmail.com. Y'all have a blessed Monday. Have a good week. And we'll see you later. Bye. Love from Montana. Mwah.